Howdy, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Bean on the Scene. I am Alma Bean, and let's get into it. So, the transfer portal, it's up, it's open. It's not as active as it has been in months past, but BYU is the most active local team amongst the big three schools between BYU, Utah, and Utah State, which BYU, they had two players come on in, one being Tavion Beasley, who is a redshirt sophomore who played safety at San Diego State, and then Alvin Puafua, who is a freshman defensive lineman coming from Hawaii. But in the process, BYU did end up losing Cale Breslin, a freshman running back, to Montana State. Now, you have to talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to BYU with recent allegations against their quarterback, Jake Rzoff. Um, Earlier in the week, Mitch Harper and Madison Miller, they wrote an article on the current legal proceedings, and even Hans and Scotty on the KSL Sports Zone had KSL legal analyst Brad Scortis given some insight as far as what the proceedings would end up being. But based off of the information that we currently have now, Jane Doe alleges that the interaction occurred around November 22nd, 2023, where Rzoff invited Jane Doe to hang out and to play video games, and then eventually led to Rzoff then raped, strangled, and then bit Jane Doe. So it's, very sensitive information. It is a civil lawsuit. So, until things are finalized, you don't want to speculate anything. You don't want to put any additional information in there. For everyone who is involved, I hope that everything goes in the direction that is needed to serve the correct justice. But overall, until this court hearing happens and we get more details, there's not really much you can say about it, because as of May 22nd, 2024, that was when the case was filed and is currently active. But according to Scortis, it's still in the very early stages of the case and probably won't even see a jury until 2026. Scortis then even told KSL Sports Zone that it'll probably take 18 to 24 months before the case goes to a trial, and then explained that criminal cases move much further than civil cases. So, again, it's still going to be a long time coming. For BYU fans, hopefully this doesn't linger into your season and, just an overlooming cloud for your competition for the upcoming season. But no, it's going to linger. Now it's a matter of whether or not the organization makes a move ahead of the season, or will they act as if nothing happens. But again, I hope justice is served where it belongs, and we move on from there. For Utah football, for their transfer portal, they did land a defensive lineman from the SEC, freshman Dylan Battle from LSU. But in the process, they did end up losing redshirt senior corner Keenan Johnson to Virginia. And then Utah State, they got DeAndre Barnes, who is a redshirt freshman corner from Nebraska, and also received freshman wide receiver Carlos Gillespie. I don't know why that last name was stumping me. And he came from Illinois. Now, for men's and women's basketball, as far as I'm aware, the portal is open, or it's like soft open. But there's not a lot of activity when it comes to the state of Utah. When it comes to men's and women's basketball, the only team that has received any sort of action since the last time we've spoken about them is the BYU men's team, where they picked up junior guard Nate Pickens from UC Riverside. And even when you look at his profiles, he's not even a ranked player, not even 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star, none of that. It is all blank across the board. I looked on multiple sites to see if there was any sort of paper trail to see a ranking for him, but there was not. So as far as collegiate sports, that's about as far as it goes. Now, moving into the MLS with Real Salt Lake, In the month of May, RSL is 0-2-2 going into their match against Man, we are stuttering today. They are 0-2-2 going into their match against the Vancouver Whitecaps, with RSL's last win coming on April 26th in a 3-1 decision against San Diego. In the first half of their game against Vancouver, it felt like a shootout as Xavier Gozo scored in the first minute, and then Diego Luna followed close behind, putting RSL up 2-0 4 minutes into the game. But Vancouver would respond quickly in the 20th minute as Brian White would get one in the net to cut RSL's lead down to 2-1. But then in the 25th minute, there was a bit too much of contact within the box on RSL's side on a Vancouver corner kick, which led to Brian White getting a chance to tie things up with a PK, which he did with ease at 2-2. Now, with this PK, not only was it White's first career PK goal, but he had done it while scoring 70 MLS regular season goals before his first attempt. Along with that, he became the first player in club history to score 15 plus goals in 3 consecutive seasons. So, congratulations to Brian White, but that was all done before the first half. Now, over the next 65 minutes, it was pretty much a grudge match. Nobody was getting any good looks. Defense was pretty tight, or just passes weren't landing. But Pedro Vite took a shot from outside the box for Vancouver, putting the ball in the top left corner to lock down the 3-2 win over RSL. Now, it's a very disappointing loss for Real Salt Lake, especially since they had that early lead 4 minutes into the game. But for some reason, they are just struggling to hold any lead. So now it's been over a month since the last time they've won a game. But their next game is going to be tomorrow on Wednesday, May 28th at Austin FC, where kickoff will start at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time. But you can tune into the pregame on the KSL Sports Zone on 97.5 FM starting at 5:30 p.m. And if you can't find it on 97.5 FM, you can also tune in on 1280 AM, where you can catch all of your local sports action there on the KSL Sports Zone. Now, for their female counterparts, the Utah Royals, the last month also hasn't been too kind for them, as they have gone 0-3-1 while scoring just 3 goals, which all 3 of those goals came in their 3-3 draw against the Washington Spirit. But after putting up a fight against the Spirit, they then welcomed the 2024 NWSL champions, the Orlando Pride, and that game may have not seemed like it was such a steep hill to climb after going toe-to-toe with the Washington Spirit, who fell short last year in said championship. Now, all eyes going into this game were on Orlando's Barbara Bonda, and rightfully so, as she got the game's first goal in the 6th minute to put Orlando up 1-0. But Brecken Mozingo from the Utah Royals would then get the Royals onto the board shortly after with a breakaway goal in the 14th minute to tie it up 1-1. But unfortunately for the Royals, Bonda would put the pride on her back and not only scoring one more goal, but actually getting a hat trick by the 38th minute, giving Orlando their convincing 3-1 win. Now, there's a lot of injuries that have been stacking up for the Royals, and it's really starting to show on the field, especially now that they are 1-2-7 on the season. But the international break, it is right around the corner. So I'm sure that coaching staff, players, they are really looking forward to having that break, getting their players healthy, and getting them back into that rotation. But their next game is going to come on Friday, June 6th at Racing Louisville FC at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time, where you can tune in to the KSL Sports Zone for the pregame starting at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, which again, if it's not on 97.5, you can check it out on 1280 a.m. as well. Or if you're on the go, not near a radio, all of these events you can catch on the KSL Sports app, and you can listen live there. Now, for MILB, the Salt Lake Bees, they just wrapped up their series against the Omaha Storm Chasers, where they won the series 4-1. Now, the standouts that we had from this series came from their top prospects from both the Los Angeles Angels and the Kansas City Royals. During this series, you had Christian Moore for the Salt Lake Bees, who went 11 for 23 with 8 RBIs, 8 runs, and 1 home run. And mind you, he just joined the Bees for this series. So, for a first impression, he's leaving a pretty lasting one, batting near 500. But for Omaha, they had their number one prospect in their farm system with Jack Caglione, who went 9 for 26 with 10 RBI, 5 runs, and 4 home runs, which Caglione, during his time that he was here in Salt Lake City, he went ahead and stopped by a friend of the show, Overtime Cards, and he also did a live rip while he was over there. So it's really great seeing that visiting players are even exploring the area while they are here for the week. But between these two young guys, yes, Christian Moore was getting more hits, but you can see that Caglione had the ability to just launch it over the wall. And there's so much talent between these two guys. And, somebody had to win. And a lot of these games were very high scoring. I mean, you had double digit scores for, I believe, two of the games. And the lowest scoring game was actually the Bees' loss on Sunday, where they lost 5-3. And I believe that one went into extras, if I'm not mistaken. So, it was definitely a shootout overall, scoring left and right, and you having your two youngest promising players leading the charge. It's very great for both the Bees and the Storm Chasers. Now, for the Bees' next game, it's going to be tonight on Tuesday, May 27th at Tacoma, starting at 7:05 p.m. Mountain Time, where pregame will start at 6:50 on the KSL Sports Zone on 97.5 FM or 1280 AM, or you can always listen to the KSL Sports app. I personally will be producing said game, so if you'd like to support what I do, by all means, tune in any way, shape, or form that you can. Now, a team that doesn't get a lot of love, but definitely should, is the Utah Archers. And if you're wondering, Alma, who are the Utah Archers? Well, they are the local PLL team, which is the Premier Lacrosse League. And they're actually about to start their season after they have just won back-to-back PLL championships. Highly recommend watching this very talented team, with their first game being this Saturday, May 31st, against the Maryland Whipsnakes, which you can catch that on ABC or ESPN Plus. And that game starts at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, if I'm not mistaken. But the players that you should keep an eye out for should be Tom Schreiber, who won Midfielder of the Year 5 out of the last 6 years, along with a Leadership Award winner in 2023 and 24. And then he is also a former MVP from 2023. Then you also have Ryan Ambler, who won Teammate of the Year in 2024, Grant Ament, who won Attackman of the Year in 2021, and then Graham Hosak, who won Defensive Player of the Year in 2021. So there is a lot of high-profile players on this team. And even if you don't understand lacrosse, support your local teams in any way, shape, or form. And especially with their season coming up very quickly. The way that the PLL works, it's more of like a travel system. So it's not like playing one game at home, one home away, or one game away. But support the team because, again, back-to-back champs. They deserve way more recognition than they're receiving. But since they are lacrosse and, not one of the big four sports that most people would refer to, it's a little difficult to get some more outreach. So, again, highly recommend watching them. And another team that I think you guys should keep an eye out for is the Utah Warriors, who is the Utah local rugby team here. And they are currently second place in the MLR, the Major League Rugby. Major League Rugby. They are second in their league. So playoffs are right around the corner for them. If I'm not mistaken, they have 2 more home games left there. It was a little difficult to find scheduling for them, but they do play out in Harriman near the Real Academy. So if you want to show support for your local sports, again, check out those guys. They are working their tails off. So again, Utah Archers, Utah Warriors, go for it. Now for the Utah Jazz, you're just looking forward to the draft, and they got a very disappointing pick with the number 5, even though they had the best odds to get the number 1. But outside of that, you think they had some promising rookies this year with Isaiah Collier, Kyle Filipowski. Cody Williams definitely still needs some more work, and there's been some videos circulating around the internet of him trying to reform his jump shot. But at least you would have thought maybe there should have been some votes or some consideration for Isaiah Collier. Well, all rookie teams did come out this week. And first team consists of Stephon Castle from the San Antonio Spurs, Zach Edey from the Memphis Grizzlies, Zachary Richachet from Atlanta, Alex Sarr from the Washington Wizards, and then Jalen Wells from the Memphis Grizzlies. Again, all of them are very well deserving of that first team all rookie, especially Jalen Wells. He was a huge impact for that Grizzlies team before he ended up injuring his wrist. But again, everybody very well deserving. And honestly, this is probably what you expected even during preseason. Maybe Jalen Wells is the only one that really made the huge jump. But again, no complaints here. For second team, you had Matas Buzelis from the Chicago Bulls, Bob Carrington from the Washington Wizards, Donovan Clingan from the Portland Trailblazers, Vesey Missy from New Orleans Pelicans, and Khalil Ware from Miami Heat. Again, all of these rookies super talented. It was a very weak draft class, but I think the only player that there could be some sort of discussion to be replaced with Isaiah Collier is Bob Carrington. But honestly, it's a coin flip in my eyes, and Collier not getting consistent minutes till around the midway point of the season really hurt his case. Where Bob Carrington being on the Wizards, you didn't really have too much depth to work with, so why not play everyone as much as you can? So again, zero complaints as far as first and second team for all rookie. Um, I do believe that Collier should have received some love, but again, the only person that I could see on this list that could have been left off is Bob Carrington. But again, it's a total coin flip. Now, with the Utah Mammoth, with Stanley Cup playoffs in full swing and not being able to watch Utah players that you know and love in full swing, a lot of people have turned their heads to the IIHF Men's Worlds, with 6 Mammoth players representing their respective countries, with Logan Cooley, Josh Doan, Clayton Keller, and Michael Kesselring all representing the United States, Maximilian Sauber for Germany, and then Karel Vemelka for the Czech Republic. Yes. I don't know why that didn't sound right, but if I'm wrong, correct me. And again, we saw a lot of great showings from a lot of these guys. Sauber, he wasn't necessarily talked about too much. He wasn't too impactful for the German team. Vemelka, he had a lot of love on social media for the saves that he had, and especially during his head-to-head match against USA. It was really funny seeing some of these guys, teasing Vemelka for getting some pucks past them, and it's all love and games and stuff. But the U.S. did seem to coast their way to the championship game as they would take on Switzerland, who was the only team to give the USA a loss before the elimination rounds. This game looked to be a stalemate during regulation, so they actually ended up needing overtime to decide a winner for this tournament. Now, 2 minutes into said overtime, Utah Mammoth player Logan Cooley was able to lead a breakaway pass up the ice to Tage Thompson of the Buffalo Sabres, who would score, giving USA their first gold medal in this tournament in 92 years, all while being the youngest team in the tournament. Now, for Switzerland, though, it's heartbreak for them as it is the 4th gold medal loss that they have had in 13 years, which is crazy to even think about. And with that assist from Cooley to Thompson, Cooley became tied for first in the entire tournament for points with 12, which, if I'm not mistaken, he shared that along with another USA player as well. Now, going from international to local when it comes to the hockey scene, this weekend, the Utah Mammoth fan base, the Clubbers, they had their first annual Clubbers Cookout out in Copperton, which thankfully I was able to attend, and I was able to meet some wonderful people. And, there were a lot of individuals who ended up going out there. There was a lot of, kind-hearted individuals that decided to donate, whether it was to be the hope, with people making their donations there. There were drawings for donations that people had either brought in, or even Ryan Smith himself had donated Utah Hockey Club and Utah Mammoth merchandise. which anybody who attended pretty much got to leave with at least one thing in their hands. I myself, I donated a couple of pucks just because I have my fair share. I've had a couple of duplicates, and I figured someone else would be happier with them in their homes. So I donated a Josh Doan signed puck and a Sean Dursey signed puck. But overall, food was great, company was great. I even was convinced to play some street hockey, which I had never played before, never even held a hockey stick. I was given a left-handed stick and didn't know how it would work, but not to boast, got 2 goals, 2 assists. Unfortunately, our friend Matt, Attack Panda, he would not let me get my hat trick, which again, I think I got my payback unintentionally, of course, as I tried to get a little chip in goal. My stick went right into his knee and he bled a little bit. So, really sorry, Matt, but I feel like it's a fair trade off. But again, totally unintentional. Unintentional. Yes. Um, but while I was there at the Clubber Cookout, I did end up talking with some friends of the show, Cole and Destin of the Puck Drop podcast, and they were mentioning a couple of things with me, and they had asked if I would like to help collaborate with them on a project that we can't talk about too much. But what I can mention is that the project itself will be in Arizona, and it will be for the Ultimate Goalie Showdown. And I'm sure you're wondering, what is the Ultimate Goalie Showdown? So let's give you a little bit of background behind it. So, according to the AZ Rubber Hockey website, it all started with last summer with Valentino Beckman, also known as Tino. He was one of the younger uh, hockey players in the area. He just made his AHU Knights 8U travel team last summer. And then next thing you know, life hit him pretty hard. And he ended up landing in the Phoenix Children's ICU, fighting a battle that no child should ever have to face. But thankfully, the hockey community rallied, and former NHL goaltender Eddie Locke heard about Tino's fight, and then sent a message, one goalie to another, keep on fighting. And being a well, when Eddie found out who Tino's favorite team was, which is the New Jersey Devils, he reached out to Jesper Bratt and sent Tino a personal message too, which all heartfelt and 100% deserved. No child should be able to go through their life and so early have to deal with cancer and hurts. But um, you know, Eddie ended up showing up in person to one of their night's practices, and a friendship developed between Eddie and Tino's father, Ryan. But it ended up leading to some friendly banter and, probably like a little rivalry, if you want to put it there. But it ended up leading to a wager of $500 for a shootout. Just, why not? A big, bold bet. But it ended up leading to donations. And they're like, you know what? Why don't we just write a check to Canucks for Kids? Um, and that's how the Ultimate Goalie Showdown ended up leading. So, this showdown will take place on Tuesday night on June 17th at 7 p.m. at Arizona Ice Gilbert, and it will be streaming online as well. And Eddie and Ryan, they will face off in a shootout to raise money for causes that are very close to their hearts. One that's very close to mine as well. As I had mentioned, my grandfather ended up losing the battle to cancer, who I have here with me at all times. But if you are unable to attend, I will be providing the links in the description below for Canucks for the Kids, or you can always donate to Ryan's charity as well, which is Puck Support. Um, or you can pretty much just bet on the outcome, and all the money will go towards a wonderful cause. But uh, as far as celebrities who have already committed to this event, you already have Swaggy P, Pat Shea from the Full Ride YouTube series. Then you have Ollie and Jacob from On the Bench. So it's going to be a really great event for the hockey community and for Utah fans that are trying to find ways to be involved in more ways than one, I highly recommend that this is one way to not only expand your own fandom, but to expand the clubbers community and show that this fan base is one of the best fan bases in the NHL. So, show your support where you can. And I'll put those links here in the description below. But all in all, it's going to be a really great event. I'm really thankful that Cole and Destin reached out to me to even be a part of it, even in the capacity that we have talked about. And there's also so many awesome things that are going to come along from it. And once I am allowed to talk about it more, I will let you guys know whether it's on another Being on the Scene, short form or long form, or even through simple tweeting on X at AlmaBean23. I will make sure that you guys know the moment that I am allowed to let you know. But with that being said, that has been another Being on the Scene. I am Alma Bean, and you enjoy the rest of your day.